Blog Talk Radio.
The following ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add growth to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. The 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. I think he may have thought that anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio with your host, Mark Angelo Cummings. A show for trans folks by trans folks, here to let your voice be heard.
Good evening and welcome to Transition Radio, live from the land of enchantment, Silver City, Mexico. My name's Mark Angelo Cummings, and I'll be your host. But before I bring my guest on tonight, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, thebreastformstore.com. They have everything you could imagine to enhance your feminizing needs, as well as Spunk Lube, which is an award-winning personal lubricant. It's glycerin-free, non-staining, 100% sex toy safe with all materials. And it's fun to use, too. It's available in Spunk Lube, not Punk, but Spunk Lube Hybrid, Spunk Lube Pink, and Spunk Lube Pure Silicone, which is my favorite. Visit their website at www.spunklube.com and check out all their amazing line of products. And if you use the code TR, you will receive a 10% discount. Also, check out the amazing Katie Leon, who is an incredible author with many books to choose from. Please support Transition Radio by clicking the donate button. No small amount is too small. And while you're there, also check out the GoFundMe of the month. Well, tonight we have a special guest. Her name is Kelly Harrison, who was born in Nova Scotia, Canada, and she quickly realized that she wasn't like the other boys around the age of 3 or 4. She quotes, "My mother started sending me to see a psychiatrist when I was about 6 or 7 for antisocial behavior towards men." Kelly started getting interested in boys when she was around 8 years old, and at that time lost her virginity to a boy. At around the age of 13, Kelly started thinking about a sex change. That is when she really started to hide herself and got into a lot of trouble. She started riding motorcycles and hanging around with other bikers. Just after her 40th birthday, she heard that her mother was dying and decided that she wasn't going to go without meeting the real her for the very first time. So that is when she started seeking help for her gender misalignment, which she had been hiding all throughout the years. Kelly has recently been on the news, but I will let her tell you more about that. So now please welcome to the show, Miss Kelly Harrison. Hello.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Kelly. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. I hear a little birdie told me you're a little nervous.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little. That's all cool. It's all amongst friends here, telling your story, telling the incredible thing that you've done, which took a lot of guts, I believe. And but we'll ask that a little later. How's the weather in Canada? I always like to ask how the weather is.
We're getting a little bit of snow right now, but overall it's not all that bad. It can be worse. Yeah.
Canada gets pretty cold, and especially right around this time of year, right? Between mid-December or so. Definitely.
Yeah. Especially around here.
Well, I'm from Florida, so I'm not used too much to the cold weather, and I'm in New Mexico right now, which does get pretty cold. So I'm having to adapt pretty much. So reading your bio, I'm going to say that I can relate with being sent to a psychiatrist. I think I was around that age, too, between 8 or 10 years old or something of that nature. My mom, figured that she could like either have the shrink break me of my masculine behavior, because ever since I was a little kid, I was always acting very masculine. Can you elaborate on your visit for me and for our listeners, and what conclusion did the psychiatrist come to at the time?
As far as conclusion, I'm not entirely sure, about that, because me and my mother, we've never actually had a conversation about it. But I remember when I first started seeing him, because it was a male psychiatrist of all people. To send a little boy to see a male psychiatrist about antisocial behavior towards men was kind of strange. But I wouldn't talk to him, so I just he gave me some paper and pencils and stuff, and got me to draw what was on my mind. So.
Wow, it's funny because that same thing happened. They asked me, draw a boy, draw a girl. Did you have to draw a boy or a girl?
I can't remember. It was such a long time ago. The main thing that I do remember is that it brought out my artistic personality in when he told me to draw what was on my mind. I was looking out a window and I could see this 70s style hot rod van with the painted mural on the side. So I drew it from the angle that I was looking at it. It was perfect. So that got me interested in art after that.
It's interesting. The reason I ask you what conclusion did they have, because I remember that the psychiatrist told my mom there's absolutely nothing wrong with your daughter. I guess my mom thought the psychiatrist was going to fix me and make me be feminine all of a sudden. The guy was a male psychiatrist, and I guess he was very open to the different either gender expressions at the time, but my mom wasn't too happy with his conclusion. She spent all this money, and the guy didn't tell her there was anything absolutely wrong with me, so I was kind of hoping that you had some recollection what the outcome.
If there was something said about it back then, I was too young to remember.
Yeah.
I never really discussed it with my mother. So
I was pretty young, but it was pretty traumatizing to me because I figured, okay, why am I being sent to this person, and why is he making me draw all the different things and asking me these stupid questions? It kind of really created an imprint in my mind, and from that moment on, I wasn't really too thrilled with psychology or therapy or anything of that nature. I always wonder why society chooses to place us in a box and create gender stereotypes that only lead to failure. What is your take on gender?
Well, it's hard for me to say.
Well, I always try to do that. I get the guest to think. But I did send you the questions ahead of time so that you kind of...
Yeah.
I always do that. To my guests.
I don't really think that I have much of an opinion on the gender itself. I always thought that there was just, you had males and females and then trans people. And then I find out that there's a whole variety of different, I don't know if it's different stages of gender, but it's
spectrum.
Pretty much something that I've never really looked into.
Yeah, other cultures don't just have the black or white that we have here, male or female, that type of, there's a lot of shades of gray. And gender is not the biggest focus of these other cultures, call it, Aborigine, Indians, whatever. They don't pressure people like our society pressures us to fit into a gender box. And I believe that is why there is so much failure in our society in many different ways. And what do you think about are we harming our children by forcing them to be a certain way? I mean, I'm sure you heard when you were younger, act like a boy. I know I heard all the time, act like a girl.
Yeah. Actually, that is one thing that I 100% agree with. That, like, I'm forcing a child to like be a boy or be a girl. Like, that's definitely wrong. Because I remember being told that numerous times by my mother and my stepfather growing up. This is the way that you have to be. Like, you have to play with the trucks. You have to play with little Tonka toys and dinky cars, and play in the sandbox, and like stay out of your sister's room and leave her Barbies alone.
Which is very harming, I believe, to the child's psyche. One of the things that I know that in the tribes, Indian tribes, they would gather the children, and then they would have all these different objects, some that were more related to the female persona, and some objects were related more to the male persona. And they just put these objects there, and they would see where the child would gravitate to. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to force you to play with Betty Crocker cooking mix dollhouse or whatever, or we're going to force you to play with bow and arrow if you're a boy. I mean, it's not natural to force somebody to be something that they're not and break their spirit. This is why we as a society are on all sorts of psychotropic, like depression medication or anti-anxiety. It's because from the time we're little, we are being told how to act, how to be. I believe that's wrong.
Definitely wrong.
Thoughts? Yeah. Explain to us what you meant by that you started to hide and get into a lot of trouble.
That's pretty easy to explain. During my teenage years, I'd been seeing this boy kind of secretively, and like I felt feminine. Like I knew I felt female, and I learned in my early teens about people having a sex change, and that was something that I really wanted, and I mentioned it to him, and that kind of, like, thinking of that kind of scared me about how people were going to react, and then I started putting on like more and more of a tough guy male persona, so no one would realize that that I'm hiding something. And like even when I walked down the street, I felt really nervous and almost walked like I was clenching my butt cheeks because I didn't want anyone to see that I walked with a little bit of a wiggle. But I started fighting a lot, and got myself into a lot of trouble.
Overcompensating.
Yeah, very overcompensating big time. No, go ahead.
I've noticed that seems to be, I would say, 95% of the scenario with trans females, that they take on these roles that are excessively masculine, and they become very angry, and they become, it's like, hey, I'm a man. They have to prove it because they're trying to hide that softness, that female that they have inside of them, because from the moment they're little, they've been made fun of.
Yeah,
that was your case as well. You were a biker.
Yep, I drove a Harley.
Saw the picture. Yeah.
Actually, I had over the years, I probably had 8 or 10 Harley Davidsons, not to mention several hundred different other motorcycles.
Wow.
But I'd go to biker bars and start the fights, and always the last person standing.
Is that what you were proving to people, that you weren't a sissy or that female individual that they made fun of while you were growing up?
Yeah, just proving that I wasn't a sissy. It was like I got picked on. I got picked on all through school, bullied a lot. Then all of a sudden one day when I was like probably about 15 or 16, actually I think it was about 16, a bully in gym class was picking on me, and he went to punch me, and that's when I laid him out flat. And it was immediately after that I started practicing martial arts and like in boxing and everything, and just started fighting a lot. Anyone that would call me out, it was like they were in for a fight.
Which is really upsetting, because I'm sure that your true persona is a very sensitive, loving, caring individual, and you were forced to bring out this character that was nothing like you. And I've heard that same story. I heard it from Jessica, my ex, and I've heard it because I have many, many, many trans female friends. And it's really sad that society pushes these beautiful, loving, gentle souls to become some sort of monsters to prove to the world that they are not so-called sissies. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in touch with your female side, even if you're not transgender.
Yeah. Usually whenever I got into a fight, it would 9 times out of 10 it'd end up with me knocking the other person out, and afterwards, once everyone calmed down, I'd usually ask them to go for a drink or like apologize, and I was like I was a very sympathetic, tough guy.
I can imagine. You hurt them, and then the motherly instinct comes out. Come here, poor baby. Let me kiss the boo-boos.
Yeah. Actually, that's exactly how it goes.
I can imagine. So let me ask you, how did your mother react when she first met Kelly? I know when I read your bio that when you found out your mom was sick, you wanted her to meet Kelly. How did she react with her first encounter with Kelly?
It wasn't pretty. Like, not at all. It was before I started HRT. I took my mother out to lunch, and while we were waiting for our order, I started discussing my intentions to her, and she literally put her head down and covered her head on the table and started crying. And then after a minute or two, she brought her head up and looked at me with the meanest look on her face, and I'll never forget it. It's burnt into my mind. She looked at me and she says, "I don't want another effing daughter." And it was like heartbreaking.
I can imagine.
But
it's crazy.
Several months after when I finally started and came out, and like she started trying to accept me, but it wasn't until probably about 6 or 8 months later I invited her to go see my psychologist, and my psychologist gave her a book called Transgender 101. You probably heard of that one.
Yes.
But anyway, my mother read that book from front to back, and as soon as she finished, it was like flipping a light switch. It was like she went from not accepting me to just like I'm probably her most favorite daughter right now.
Well, you know what it is? I truly believe that a lot of our parents feel that it's their fault. They did something wrong. So when they get relieved that they find out it's nothing that they did, that this is who we are, how it is, then it's like a sense of relief, and then they accept you and love you, because how can they not? They are our parents. They have to love us. Mm-hmm. I mean, they may be afraid for our choices. They may be afraid for our life. They may be afraid how people look upon them and upon us. But deep down inside, there is love.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that you came around, and thanks to that book. That's education is golden. I've always said knowledge is golden, and it's a good thing. Tell us a little bit about the turn of events with your. Is it ex-employer? Are you still working for them?
No, actually, it was. I went for an interview at a company called ABC Technologies, or ABC Canada Technologies. And I went in, very professional looking, and I had my portfolio, and I showed him everything that I could do and what I'd been doing, and he was very impressed. But he said that he had 2 other people to interview and that he'd get back to me. A week later, I called him to ask for an update, see what was happening, if he made a decision or not. And he literally told me that, he went over the same thing that he said before. He said that he thought that I was more than qualified, that I was had more experience than most of the people working there. And he says to me that if he hired me, that I would have to come to work and pretend to be a man. Then
and you actually have a picture.
You
actually have a picture of you dressed as a man, which I have on the actual slide here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep, there was 2 pictures there. One was taken before I went to my first interview, and then there's one that was taken before I went to my second interview. Mm. But anyway, when I was talking to him on the phone, he said, he says that, like I said, I'm more than qualified and better qualified than most of the people working there, and that he wanted to hire me, but he won't hire me because I'm a transsexual. So I immediately got in touch with a couple of lawyers. They all said the same thing, make a human rights complaint, which I did. Then the Human Rights Commission was in discussion back and forth with ABC and pretty much guilt-tripped them into giving me a second interview. And when I went in for that, I went in dressed as a man, to prove to them, I was desperate for work. I was about to lose my apartment. I was losing everything. I was on the edge of suicide. It was I needed a job. I didn't want to go on welfare. And I went in for the interview. It was perfectly fine. They gave me a job, and then the very next day they took it away from me again.
That's crazy.
It continues, because about a month after that, which would be about a month ago now, they offered me the job again. So they didn't want to hire me, then they wanted to hire me, then they didn't want to hire me, then they wanted to hire me again. And I just got fed up.
I'm wondering if there was some sort of pressure being put on them, so they were trying to figure out how to get out of this lawsuit waiting to happen, or this bad media press that's going to come upon them. So
that's exactly what they're doing. They were trying to save face, and give me a job, and then turn around in a month or so, find some idiotic reason to just let me go.
And we see this often happening to a lot of trans individuals, very, very often. And it's not right, because as long as you can do the job, it does not matter how you identify, how you dress, how you act. As long as you can do the job, they should have no reason to discriminate or not giving us the jobs. It's crazy. I had the same issue. I'm an occupational therapist, and the last company I worked for, which ended up laying me off, had issues with me being trans. Everybody else would talk about their life. If I would talk about mine, they would look at me and say, please, Mark, can you not share that kind of stuff? And I'm like, everybody's sharing, this is my life. And at the end, they ended up laying me off, and with the excuse that they have lost a lot of contracts, and they weren't, I was one of the last ones hired in the company. But I know that deep down inside, they laid me off because they couldn't handle the fact that I was transgender. Yeah, and it's crazy. You see it. It's 2014 going on 2015, and we're still seeing this discrimination, this hatred, this division, and we are pretty much the last totem in the bus type of thing. There's still people that don't get us.
Yeah. There's a little bit more to that story.
Go right ahead.
Last week they tried to pay me off.
Ooh.
They made a stupid offer of $1,500 and a written apology if I would sign a contract that I wouldn't talk about just let everything go. But the Human Rights Commission, I had said something before that I didn't want anything from them other than a job, and since I turned down their job offer, I mentioned to the Human Rights Commission that if they donated $5,000 to the Avenue Community Center for Gender and Sexual Diversity, that and give me a written apology, that I'd let it go. So they put that in front of them, but that was over a month ago when I said that. So they quickly, we'll pay that, no problem. But the more I thought about it, the more I started thinking that if they make a donation, then they get a tax credit, and nobody's going to learn nothing from this.
Right.
So I turned down that.
Yeah, and they get away with it. This way, it's like they're exposed for their bigotry, and hopefully they will change the way they conduct their business and the way they treat transgender individuals.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what would you like to see change in our world regarding gender, regarding transgender, the way society handles things?
Well, I wish that the rest of the world would see us as equal human beings instead of not even third-class citizens. It's anytime that I go for an interview, it seems like the door is already shut before, you hear the expression that, brain just shut off. But it seems like they've already made their decision up as soon as they put their eyes on me, just like what ABC did, because, it was only a couple hours between putting my resume in and he was so excited he wanted to get me in immediately for an interview. But as soon as he seen me, it's not hiring you.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Well, we actually got 90 seconds left of the live feed. I don't know if there is going to be any change within our lifetime. I hope that there is. I hope that people will stop looking at individuals for what they have between their legs, that they see us for the fantastic folks that we are, because the majority of transgender individuals are very talented, very creative, hardworking souls. I truly believe that. And if they gave us a chance and stop allowing their thought process, their religious beliefs, whatever it is that causes them to act the way they do, and they put that aside, they would realize that we are amazing workers. And so, any last words that you would like to say?
Not really.
Not really. By the way, you're
nervous.
looking amazing. You're looking amazing. I've
Yeah.
been watching your transition, and
we've been friends for quite a while there. So.
Yeah, we have. Yes, we have. And you're blossoming into a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to hopefully seeing things turn your way and the world changing the way they look at us as individuals. And I appreciate so much your time on the show, and hopefully the nerves kind of settled a little bit. I always try to make my guests not so nervous.
Yeah, the butterflies are still there, though.
Nothing a little glass of wine or beer won't handle. Yeah. Well,
I only had some right now.
Yeah, I know, right? So, keep in touch, and God knows, if we'll ever meet in the future. I always love to be able to meet the guests on the show, and we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, and send my love to your mom, and be well, my friend.
I'll most likely be talking to her in just a few minutes.
Okay. All righty. Take care. Well, guys, there's no show this Thursday. Take care. Much love to you. There's no show this Thursday. It's Christmas, and then following Thursday is New Year's Day, so there won't be any TV show, but I will have a radio show next Monday. Don't know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. If there's going to be a guest next Monday, I usually try to live in the moment and the now and see what I'm inspired to do. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you with one of my originals that I wrote a while back called I Remember When. Good night. I love you, but remember to always love yourselves, too. Good night.
Gotta get away real soon.